There's been some news. There's been some developments as far as the Clemson recruiting goes, and not all of it is in the favor of our Tigers, unfortunately. If everybody remembers, back in August, roughly a month ago, Bryce Davis decommits from the Tigers and then eventually commits to play at Duke. So that was our first decommitment of the class, our first flip of the class, if you will. And at the defensive edge position, if everybody remembers, we had Ari Watford committed. We had Bryce Davis and Isaiah Campbell all committed at the edge position, which was a killer class at that edge position. Now, unfortunately, not only have we lost Bryce Davis to a decommitment, we have also lost Isaiah Campbell. He is officially decommitted from the Tigers, opened up his commitment, and it looks like he will be heading elsewhere to play football. Jordan, questions for you. Should Clemson fans be concerned about these two commitments? Obviously, they're at the same position group, so Clemson's going to have to expand the board. They've already went and offered Christian Ingram and Mekhi Williams-Lee recently, both of those guys. So with those new additions, those new offers out there, how do you feel about those guys? And what are your thoughts on the decommitment? Well, obviously, we've talked about Bryce Davis in the past and kind of some of the reasons, and it's a little more, I guess, understandable why he made the decisions that he made to kind of decommit from Clemson and go to Duke. There were some strong family ties pulling him there. I'm sure some NIL had something to do with it, and all of that stuff we've kind of already covered. But with the addition of Isaiah Campbell decommitting, should Clemson fans be worried? We only have 13 commits in this class. I think it's 19th overall in the country right now as far as the ranking. So, we thought, originally earlier in the class, we'd probably get to about 18 to 20 range as far as the committed guys. Here we are in the month of September. We're back down to the number 13. So should we be worried? And if so, why? And if not, why?
Well, worried, probably not the right word. I don't want to sugarcoat it. I mean, these two decommitments are big and they suck. Me personally, I loved Isaiah Campbell as a prospect. I felt like he was the most ready to play out of the guys committed along the defensive line. But he was a guy that has been fighting and dealing with other schools in his ears for a while now. I mean, UNC and especially Tennessee, they had long since been trying to get him on a visit. Looks like he's going to take those visits now, and it's sucks to lose him. I will say that the number the 18 to 20 number is more of a guess. It's not always clear with Clemson, like kind of what their target number is. I think they moved quickly. Christian Ingram especially was a guy that they knew about Isaiah Campbell like a couple of weeks ago. So they pivoted quickly. They had that relationship. Nick Eason with Christian Ingram went ahead and pulled the trigger a few days ago. And then you mentioned Mekhi Williams-Lee out of Atlanta, Georgia. Kind of an undersized defensive tackle, but extremely twitched up. If you go watch his film, he's just flying in the backfield. He plays at Lakeside. That's 5A school in Atlanta. So he's not playing scrubs. So, as far as the pivot goes, I think I'm happy with these two offers. So, and I think both are trending in a really good direction for Clemson. And, I think ultimately that's really exciting. Mekhi Williams-Lee was committed to NC State. So kind of think of it as another win over Dave Doran this week if you do land his commitment.
The hits keep coming for Donut Dave. Poor guy.
So, yeah, obviously the defensive line class is not going to be as strong as, on paper as it appeared to be. But, again, you still have Ari Watford and Amari Adams, two highly sought-after defensive linemen. We're kind of complaining, oh, man, we're not going to have four, top 100 defensive line prospects in our class, only going to have two. So, I'm not trying to, sunshine pump or anything like that. Cause again, I hate losing those two prospects in Bryce Davis and Isaiah Campbell. It sucks. But if you didn't have the defensive line coaches that you do and the recruiting pedigree that those two have and the evaluation pedigree that those two have, I'd be a little bit more worried. So, I think it's just kind of the reality of recruiting right now. And, Clemson is going to suffer these every once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan, I think you bring up a good point in, the recruiting pedigree and the guys that we have in that room as far as coaches along that defensive line. You think of a Nick Eason, that guy's a recruiting machine. And then you add Chris Rump to the mix, a guy with an NFL pedigree and a proven track record there to kind of attract the defensive linemen. And Clemson really is not – we're not struggling to bring high-level defensive linemen to Clemson. It's kind of been a calling card of Clemson for quite some time now. But with that said, losing Bryce Davis and Isaiah Campbell sucks. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. That was two of the 4 highest-rated guys we had in the class. It's never good when you lose guys like that. I'm sure some of this has to do with NIL. Some of it may have to do with other things, unforeseen. The true story of it is we'll never know why they decommitted, 100% why they decommitted. You can speculate, NIL, you can speculate, early playing time, you can speculate all sorts of things, right? But at the end of the day, you're never really going to know. It's never good to lose those kind of guys. But, to your point, I think we've pivoted well. Got some good offers out there. Start building and cultivating those relationships, get those guys on campus for games, and see where it goes from there. But I just thought it was worth mentioning. There's obviously a lot of talk out there. Anytime you lose a couple high-profile guys in the span of 1 month, people are going to start asking questions. Fans are going to start not panicking, but start asking questions like, should we be worried? What's going on with recruiting? Why is this happening? So on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, we're going to see how this plays out. You still have the offensive line board that's still playing itself out too. So, it's about the guys you get at the end of the day. And that's how it's always been at Clemson. So, that's just kind of the reality of where recruiting is right now. You're going to lose even Clemson with how they recruit and how they evaluate and how they, kind of protect themselves as much as possible from these types of situations. It's still going to happen. So, but I don't think it's a sign of anything like, worrisome. It's just kind of the reality of how recruiting goes in the landscape right now.